Talking about the BBC New Comedy Awards, which has launched an awful lot of careers. My background, having worked with some of the greatest comedians and put the blue plaques up under the British Comedy Society to people who made us smile. Years and years ago, I met the chairman of this group, and I got involved. And it was, why do we put the plaques up to people who have, I don't know, led a battle or invented some sort of strange drug, or I'm just trying to think of the other blue plaques, writers, but there were very few for people who have just stood there and concentrated to make us laugh. So we put plaques up to Kenneth Williams, and I was just remembering the one for Benny Hill. We got Phil Collins to unveil it, and I can assure you, if you're travelling up Queensgate in London towards the Albert Memorial, just take a look at the very last building at the top of Queensgate on your left-hand side, and there is the blue plaque to Benny Hill. And as Phil Collins climbed down from the steps, having just unveiled the blue plaque, he said, "Do you know, it's odd that. I never knew Benny lived here." To which I had to say, he didn't. We've put it on the wrong building. Such is life. But I think he would have appreciated the comedy. Dave Chawner is on the line at the moment. Every so often you make a mistake, but you got to admit it, Dave.
I love that, and I loved how you just doubled down with it as well. I think that's brilliant. That's a lesson to anyone listening.
Yeah, exactly. Move along. Nothing to see here. And off to place one for Ken Dodd. Now, Dave, comedy plays a big part in your life. Yes?
Hugely, yeah. Well, I think it takes a huge part in all of our lives, especially in the UK. For such a tiny little island, we seem obsessed with comedy and what makes us laugh. And I think that's something that, I'm not something that's particularly patriotic, but I do think when you look back, even one of your listeners earlier on was saying people like Victoria Wood, and what an incredible tour de force.
Indeed, she just took a simple idea and then wrote it and rewrote it and added more of the extreme and the absurd. And I was watching her a few days ago, and unfortunately there's a character in that series that's actually in this building, and every time I walk past said person, I just smile.
I think that's one of the things that I love about comedy, is that it can give you those skills to cope. You can either get angry or you can laugh, and one of those has a lot more of a shelf life than the other one, and I completely agree with that. So if you could see somebody else in a sitcom, like, I've worked with that person, it really helps the medicine go down.
But have you ever found yourself, like me, coming out with a great line, and there was one person, and you think, that was wasted, I wish I said that on stage in front of 1,500?
To be honest, David, I find it the other way around. Of like, I'll do a gig and I'll say, "Oh my goodness," but I'll think this is amazing, and then like 3 people will go, "Huh." So I feel the exact opposite to you. Maybe you're the yin to my yang.
Well, I must. This is a macabre story. My father was more or less dying on his deathbed, and there was a surgeon holding a stethoscope to his chest. He said, "Any past ailments?" And I said, "Well, his lungs collapsed, or one of his lungs collapsed, actually, in the Second World War with pleurisy." And he was listening to the chest. He said, "Which side did it affect?" I said, "Well, I don't think the Germans were too worried, but the RAF sent him home for the weekend." Now, all I got from my father was "stupid boy," which was...
You see, that's amazing. And that picks on a point that's really pertinent as well. Is if you look at how many topics of comedy start in hospitals or with surgeons or in the army or with death, it's amazing. It shows you that, like, actually, comedy is a great way of being able to make stuff manageable, reframing it and making it a little less intimidating. And I actually just think it's a shame your dad didn't find that more funny.
Oh, I think he did. Then he was wasted because the surgeon had his stethoscope in his ears and never heard the comment. I think, don't repeat it. Don't ever repeat a punchline. It's not worth it. Dave, are you performing somewhere? Are you, just tell me, you got 5 minutes. Give us a plug. Tell me about your entire life story.
Oh my goodness! Well, I'm not very interesting. There you go. That's done. No, I am up at the Edinburgh Fringe. I'm going to do a show which is all about the history of Western philosophy, and I generally tend to use comedy in order to talk about difficult subjects such as mental health. And I'm currently running a comedy course aimed at people who are a bit wobbly in the old mental health department. It's called Comedy for Coping, and you can go to comedyforcoping.com for more information.
Wow. You've got to say that comedy and mental health, they probably do go hand in hand, tripping towards the sunset beautifully.
So much. A lot of it comes from like my own experience of mental health. So I had anorexia as a teenager, and a sort of quick story that I always tell that I think is a great way of piercing that bubble is I became obsessed with exercising when I was a teenager. I was always running upstairs anytime I'd eaten anything, doing push-ups, sit-ups, squats. And when I was writing the show about the anorexia, I said to my mom, why did you never say anything to me about the exercising? I know you knew about it. And she said, well, Dave, when your teenage son keeps on running up to his bedroom and all you can hear is rhythmical banging that's followed by repeated grunting, you tend not to ask questions. And I think that is a perfect example of showing things in a different light and making difficult topics a little bit more manageable for people to talk about.
I think you and I can be described as your yang to your yin, because I describe myself as trans slender. It ain't going to happen, buddy. Right, Dave? Let's leave it there.
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Dave Chawner, thank you so much indeed for joining us today.
From the BBC Sounds app, on your smart speaker,
play BBC Radio Devon,
and on your radio.
The sound of Devon is
BBC Radio Devon.